From 1901, this meant tough restrictions on immigration, the White Australia policy.
It was a fine day, and in the distance, all these aeroplanes. Jesus, one fella said, "Look at our Air Force." And his mate said, "Our aeroplanes, they got red spots on them, they're Japs."
It's a sunny autumn day in May 1901, and 500,000 people cheer the future King of England, the Duke of York, as he makes his way to the Royal Exhibition Building in Melbourne.
You've got all this pageant and pomp and ceremony of dukes and the military and people waving streamers and grand arches. Here we all are at the beginning of something incredible.
It is here that Australia's first federal parliament will be opened. The nation's founders are about to be sworn in before a packed crowd of 12,000 dignitaries. But this is not simply a ceremony. Led by Australia's first Prime Minister Edmund Barton, the architects of this brand new nation are designing a country unlike any other.
Australia would learn from the mistakes of other countries and create a society that was just so much better than the societies of Europe, England, United States.
The foundations are already strong. In some states, women have the vote, and workers are protected by legislation guaranteeing fair pay and conditions. But Australia's leaders want to build on this and create a working man's paradise. Quite simply, the most progressive and democratic society the world has ever seen.
They see themselves as creating a brave new Commonwealth in which equality will rule and in which they'll be at the forefront of democratic, social, industrial advance.
This whole federal apparatus is going to protect the social laboratory that Australia was, to create a kind of utopia.
But the dream also masks a deeply held fear. The founders of the nation feel threatened. Ironically, this means the bold and noble plan is designed to safeguard democracy, equality, and freedom for one race, and one race alone. The 7th of August 1901. Having been inaugurated just 3 months earlier, Australia's first federal parliament is sitting in what today is the Victorian State Parliament building. The task: to debate the Immigration Restriction Bill, legislation that will change Australia forever and protect the rights of their brave new democracy through exclusion.
Australia's first Prime Minister, Edmund Barton, gets to his feet to deliver what will be, without doubt, one of the most important speeches he ever delivers in his entire life. And as he's getting up, in his hand he's holding a book, and it's by a fellow called Charles Pearson. And the name of the book is National Life and Character, a Forecast.
Published in 1893, this Melbourne academic's book was a global bestseller. It contains a chilling warning of what the future holds for the dominant white race.
Pearson says quite explicitly, the day will come when black and yellow races are no longer under tutelage, that they will be independent, they'll be self-governing. He says they will even control the ships of the sea, the trade of the sea. And then he says, this will be totally humiliating for the white man.
If we don't take care, our civilization will be overrun by China, by Africa, by India, by other cultures, other civilizations.
Believing Pearson's analysis, Prime Minister Barton and his peers fear non-Europeans will destroy the progressive New Democracy. So he proposes that all migrants wanting to enter Australia will have to pass a 50-word dictation test. Based on a model already used in South Africa, it's a sleight of hand that keeps out anyone who isn't white. But for the opposition Labour Party, the pretense of the test should be done away with. They're particularly fearful of migrants undercutting the wages of Australian workers and demand an outright ban on anyone who isn't white. Their leader, Chris Watson, warns of racial contamination. His party colleague Billy Hughes goes further, demanding a white Australia by prohibiting the importation of a single coloured alien.
Labor says just say it as it is. Bang, put it down there like it's at a council meeting or an argument between the bosses and the workers. Just say what you want. And what do we want? We want a white Australia. We want no Chinese, we want no Indians, no Africans. That's what we want. So why can't we just say it?
Australia may be an independent nation, but all new laws must still get royal assent from London. Secretary of the Colonies Joseph Chamberlain has an empire to think about. He knows if Australia unilaterally bans non-whites, British citizens in India and elsewhere will be outraged. Chamberlain will back the dictation test, but warns Barton and Australia he'll not support an outright ban based on colour or race.
Barton says, if we pass this law and make it racially explicit, it will imperil our relations with the Empire. And that's pretty much as dark a threat that you can put to the Australian people at the time, because the Australian people need the British Empire to protect their shores.
On the 26th of September 1901, the vote is taken. Barton prevails as Labour's amendment is defeated by just 5 votes. The Immigration Restriction Act is passed. The dictation test, the device that will make it work. What will come to be known as the White Australia policy is enshrined in law. Dictation around the world.
The Japanese felt incredibly humiliated and offended by this policy. The Japanese view was that Japan was a great power, in fact a much bigger power than Australia. And so why should Australia be discriminatory towards its own people?
As the decades pass, Japanese humiliation will grow and fester into something far darker. But for now, Australia's ruling elite turn their attention to the many non-whites who have lived here for decades. The first port of call is the sugar fields of Queensland, where 10,000 South Sea Islanders toil. There will be no place for them in this new Australia. Those building the nation in Melbourne are now led by a new Prime Minister, Alfred Deakin. The very fact that the South Sea Islanders are beginning to settle is precisely why they threaten the white working man's paradise and the dream itself. The solution to the problem is uncompromising. The Pacific Island and Labourers Act of 1901 calls for the immediate deportation of the sugarcane workers.
Your loving Louis.
The social engineering to create a white Australia is beginning to work. But the dream will not be achieved by deportation alone. The so-called servile races must be stopped from coming in the first place. For that, there is the cunning of the dictation test.
You're arriving in Australia at one of the ports and you're not wanted by Australia. You'll be met by a customs official who will sit down with you and he will read out to you 50 words that you have to write down. That's the dictation test. You're hearing it being read to you by an official and you have to write it all down. And if you don't write it all down, then that's it. You're not allowed into the country.
The hairy adornment of the lion renders him more formidable in appearance, but the plain fact